Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about that moderate risk for severe weather for the eastern United States. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, when do you think our next severe weather event's going to be after this one? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now, let's get straight into this video, and we're taking a look at that radar across the entire United States. There's a lot going on to dissect here. First off, we have some precipitation out there for the West Coast. We'll touch on that in a little bit here. But we also have those severe thunderstorms still happening for the Southeast, just like I said yesterday. They're going to continue straight through the night last night and into this morning, and sure enough, we have tornado warnings and severe weather warnings there just still around for the Southeast, and that's going to make its way generally up closer up into the Carolinas and a little bit of the Mid-Atlantic as well. We also have some very heavy rain for the Ohio Valley. Now let's just dive into Northern California, where we are having some precipitation. That is obviously unique when you do see that precipitation going on for California, although lately we have been seeing a lot up there, so you guys are probably enjoying that little bits of rain that you are getting. That obviously helps out after having a very dry portion of time there for quite a while we've had there. Let's go ahead and take this to the Ohio Valley here real quick. Now, not only are we seeing moderate rainfall here in these yellows and oranges showing up for Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio there, we're also seeing some snowfall down there for Missouri, and then also down and through Arkansas. We were just seeing tornadoes for this region just yesterday. Now we're seeing moderate snowfall coming down to the southwest of Springfield. So absolutely some wacky weather going on down there for sure. What we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and break down those thunderstorms that are ongoing down there for the Southeast real quick. Now, as you can see, for a lot of Georgia, Alabama, and the panhandle of Florida there, we are having some pretty potent thunderstorms there. Some severe thunderstorm warnings, especially there on that southern end for very far southern Alabama and southern Georgia. We do have some down there for the panhandle of Florida that have been off and on as well. We do have one tornado warning at this point as well as of 7:04 a.m. Eastern time, the time I'm recording this video. So there is still a lot of that going on throughout the heat of the day today as those temperatures increase, as those dew points increase, as the CAPE, the convective available potential energy, increases. We are going to see those storms get worse and worse and worse as time moves on out, obviously, as we get into the heat of the day, even up through my neck of the woods up in Virginia. So if you're one of my local viewers there from Virginia, you're going to want to pay attention as well, because there is a severe weather threat for all of us in the local region as well. More limited than those Carolinas and Georgia, but there still is a risk nevertheless. All right, so what we're going to do here is we are going to move on, and we are going to talk about the thunderstorms that we saw yesterday. I have plenty of photos to show you from yesterday's stream. If you weren't there, you're going to definitely want to check this out, because we saw some really intense supercells yesterday and some tornadoes during that, I think, 9-hour stream. So we were absolutely killing it for a long time there. And then we're going to go ahead and break down the model guidance here for the severe weather event throughout the rest of the day today. And then it's going to be quiet after that, actually, after this is all said and done. So we're going to talk about all of those things in just a moment. Now, first things first, this is my first screenshot that I have to show you guys. And we had a massive supercell near Billingsley, Alabama there. And that was earlier in the day. As you can see, 2:30 p.m. We started that stream at about 11:45. So this was just a few hours into the stream. We saw one of our first supercells here. And I do believe this one did drop a tornado at some point there in that region there. Here's a second one, and this one was pretty close to Birmingham, actually. This was one of our more northern supercells that we saw, and this one did drop a tornado close to West Jefferson there, outside of Birmingham, Alabama there at around 3:24 to around 3:45 in that time frame. We did see some tornadic activity come from this supercell. Here's another one, and this one definitely dropped a tornado south of Tuscaloosa. We had a very large and damaging tornado touchdown north of Moundville here in the Tuscaloosa general area here in Alabama. That was at about 3:38 here. As you can see, we see that strong hook echo north of Moundville, and that did cause some damage in Moundville, if I'm correct there. This one eventually would go on to drop another tornado north of Brookwood there that we can just see underneath that word heavy on my top bar there. Brookwood, it did drop another tornado there to the north. So this is a little bit later on. This is at 3:50. And by this point, it had a large damaging tornado in it. Again, crossing just eastward of Tuscaloosa. and you can tell that it is heading straight for Brookwood actually. And this is as it got a little bit closer here at about 4:09 p.m. It crossed Highway 59 here in Alabama, and I think by this point it might not have had a tornado, so it kind of cycled. It had a tornado, and that tornado kind of came to an end, and then we saw another one touch down a little tiny bit later on. So overall, that's all the photos I have for you guys today. I hope everybody stayed safe. We were trying to keep as many people safe yesterday as possible. I'm collecting all of those screenshots throughout all these severe weather events, by the way, to go ahead and show you guys at the end of the year all of the screenshots I have. So I'm going to do some sort of compilation there. So far, and this was as of this morning, there's been 23 tornado reports as for yesterday, 77 wind reports, 43 hail reports. That's a total of 143 severe weather reports. Usually we see more tornado reports come in as they start to confirm more of those. So I don't think 23 will be that final number. We will get more eventually there. So it was obviously a very big day, and it's very unfortunate what took place down there. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to move on, and we're going to take a look at the modeled guidance for today. That's going to be Thursday, March 18th, and we're just going to take a look at that moderate risk we have going on. Now, thankfully, we actually have a little bit more of a more limited severe weather event expected by this point now. We could see general thunderstorm risk in those lighter green regions. The darker green is a marginal risk. So that's where we start to see some isolated severe weather occurring. The yellows, that's where we see the slight risk. That's where it becomes a little bit more abundant. And then that enhanced risk is where we especially look for that more widespread severe weather to be possible, and especially in that moderate risk, which is now a lot smaller. You probably just heard me say it's a more limited risk, and you're thinking, what in the world? There's a moderate risk. But this was a lot larger as of yesterday, actually, and they've gone ahead and shrunk that to where it's basically just there on the borders of North Carolina and South Carolina. Beautiful area down there. That's actually where my father is from. I love that area of North Carolina, especially. I haven't been down through South Carolina quite as much, but I'm sure it's beautiful there as well. I'm really hoping you guys get through this with minimal amounts of tornadic activity. I absolutely love it down there for sure. Southern North Carolina, beautiful area to say the least. I just love the Southeast, guys. I really do. It's home. I love it. Now, here's our day one wind risk here, and as you can see, we have a 5% chance within 25 miles of a given location within that green shade. Within that yellow region, we have a 15% chance, and then that red region is a 30% chance. So actually, at this point, the wind risk seems to be the biggest one here. Let's take a look at that hail outlook, and it's a little bit smaller. That's typical for the East Coast. Typically, you do not see quite as much hail activity as you get closer to the coast, and it stays true here because we only see the 5% chance and then the 15% chance, which is actually rather large for the East Coast. Typically, you don't really see the 15% chance come to the East Coast unless it's a pretty serious event, and that is what we have on our hands here. Let's also take a glance at that tornado risk, which is actually quite elevated as well. We have a 2% within the green, we have a 5% there within the brown, and then we have a 10% chance of tornadoes there within that yellow area, and then that red area is a 15% chance of tornadoes. So that is a rather large chance for tornadoes actually for this region. Again, this is an area that does not see quite as much severe weather as those inland areas, but this is one of the more elevated risks I've seen in a while here. This is maybe a once every year or every other year type event for the East Coast here, and it certainly was a once every other year type event yesterday. So, I mean, with the hatched area as well, which means there's a good chance for EF2 or above tornadoes there. You see that black hatched area there for Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and it kind of ends there at the North Carolina-Virginia border, possibly sparing some of us here in Southern Virginia. But I will tell you, a 5% chance can drop some tornadoes as well. So we want to take this seriously in all regions, not only the highest risk region, but also those lower risk areas as well. What we're going to do here is we are going to move on, and we're going to talk about the modeled guidance, temperatures, dew points, CAPE, shear, all of it. We're going to be going over it in just a second. So here we are taking a look at those actual temperatures, and as you can see, as of this morning, we're actually in the 40s for Virginia and North Carolina, and I think that's what's sparing us a little bit here. Those temperatures are extremely low. It's actually quite chilly out there as of this morning. Georgia and South Carolina, you're a little bit warmer. You're up in the 60s, so that Gulf air is able to kind of influence your temperature a lot more down there. Very typical, obviously, the further south you are. But definitely a big difference there between temperatures in Georgia and South Carolina and then Virginia and North Carolina. But by time we're reaching about 3 p.m., it's not really going to matter because everywhere is going to be in the lower 70s, upper 60s here, mid 70s down there for Georgia. Obviously, the further south you go, the hotter it is. 87 in Florida, I'm sure it's just absolutely nice down there along the east coast, the beaches. I can't imagine how nice it is down there right now. I can't wait for that weather to return up to Virginia. For our local area, that'll be very nice. Now, look. This is going to be sufficient for severe weather. Obviously, we have those risks in place. The dew point is going to be very humid today as well. 60, mid 60s in the dew points here throughout the entire southeast coast and a lot of those Carolina areas. So I'm thinking we are in a very sufficient pattern here and a very sufficient environment for severe weather, obviously. So let's take a look at that shear as well, which is going to be elevated. We're taking a look at similar conditions to yesterday. Obviously, it's all the same event, so we're just taking a look at a little bit of a lower chance than yesterday, but generally it's the same exact system, so it can create a lot of the same types of event or tornadoes that we saw yesterday. Today, there's nothing holding it back. We have high shear, high dew points, and this is very high shear, by the way, across the entire severe weather region. The Cape isn't going to be too low either. Again, typically on the East Coast, we don't see as much Cape either, but for North Carolina and Virginia, by the time we're taking a look at 3 p.m., we're looking at 2,000 Cape for being 48 outside right now as I'm looking at my weather station. That is some high Cape to kind of make a comeback on those temperatures and dew points. So we're going to be taking a look at 1,000 Cape up and down the southeast coast there. So obviously, I'm pretty concerned. Let's break down that simulated radar here, and as you can see, for around 6 a.m. or the time I'm making this video, we see most of that activity for Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. That is in the form of some supercells developing off and on. By the time we're reaching about 1 p.m., for Florida and Georgia, this is actually much further east. You can see it's already approaching the Georgia coast. Probably between 1 and 4 p.m. it will reach that coast, at which point the threat is over once this line passes the coast. But for South Carolina and North Carolina, this threat is just getting underway, and it's just reaching the moderate risk area by this point. And then by time we're taking a look at about 5 p.m. here, that will have, for the most part, be really closing out in that moderate risk region. And for pretty much everywhere, this threat will be towards the tail end here. So again, that biggest tornado threat is along northern South Carolina, southern North Carolina there. So we will be vigilantly watching those areas very, very closely here. Let's go ahead and take this just a little bit later. This is going to be approximately as we're approaching, 9, 10 p.m. You can see the only area that's actually still seeing these very severe thunderstorms is actually the outer banks of North Carolina. So it could linger there. Obviously, they poke out a little bit further eastward, so I think that's why those storms are still over you. But for inland areas, this threat seems to be over. There is still some general thunderstorms down there for Florida. Also, potentially some thunder for New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, DC area. You can see there is some reds up there as well. We're not expecting anything too severe up there. I think they have either a general thunderstorm risk or a marginal risk, but pretty general thunderstorms up there, I would say. Not too much of a severe weather risk. You are going to want to pay attention, though, for sure, as this is a tornadic environment we're in pretty much for everywhere. So it is possible to see those tornadoes a little bit outside of where you would expect them. Our confidence is a 6 out of 6. This is happening today. Everything we talked about here, obviously. For today's comment of the day, Kyle Barbarino, a second time in a row. This is a great comment of the day because I asked you guys yesterday, will we have a high risk today? And Kyle said, I think that tomorrow will remain at a moderate risk because of the cooler temperatures across the Carolinas. And I really think that's what's holding us back as well. Also, the sun isn't really expected to get out at all either, which isn't going to help. That's what we saw happen yesterday, and that's what led to that high risk being added. But that's not what we're seeing today at all anywhere. Matter of fact, we've seen that moderate risk kind of get downgraded to where it's much smaller now as well, like I mentioned earlier. So, great comment of the day there. Anyway, for today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons: Property Damage, John Benbenick, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Alan Balemo, Adam S., Larry LePan, Donna Carnes, Cameron Marshall, and Ada Mattis. Alongside our diamond patrons: Bill Roberts, Alan Sherry, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Codalessa, Michael Buell, Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Kellen Manhart, It's Jay, Cindy Klein, Mark J, Luke Valego, Gary's, and John Quilisi. If you guys would like to be a part of this patron end screen of the day, you can do so by joining our very exciting Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comments down below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social media, and smash that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video.